Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Bloomington is in the middle of a citywide fiber optic installation that will bring high-speed internet to thousands of homes. But installing the fiber underground has resulted in damage to some homeowners' utilities.
When the city, you talk to them and, you feel like what's happened is their fault, and yet they seem to have no interest.
Bloomington has a proposal on the table to remove all the billboards from the city, but for one family, a ban would be personal.
It's devastating for us. For Jacob, it quite literally would be a death.
The measure is expected to be voted on early next year. And we talk with an IU professor about the rise in antisemitism and what it means. We'll have these stories, plus the latest news from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, even before the October 7th attack by Hamas that killed more than 1,200 Israelis, incidents of anti-Semitism in the U.S. had been on the rise. Since the attack and subsequent war in Gaza, rallies supporting both Israel and Palestine have sprung across the nation, particularly on college campuses. That's led U.S. legislators to question how colleges are dealing with anti-Semitism and calls for the genocide of Israel. Now, presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Penn were chastised for their responses at a House hearing, leading to the Penn president's resignation. While incidents of anti-Semitism are real, the Anti-Defamation League says there's been a 400% increase in incidents since the October 7th attack on Israel, and there's been some political pushback as well. For more on this topic, we're joined by Jeffrey Isaac, a James H. Rudy Professor of Political Science at Indiana University. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there's 3 college presidents we just talked about that were under fire. I mean, what answer would have been appropriate?
Certainly they spoke in legalese, and they were heavily coached, and they were trying to be really careful in explaining what are probably very complicated speech policies for campus. And, obviously they should have said genocide is a crime against humanity, according to international law and morality, and calls for genocide of any group are despicable. At the same time, they were trying to, I think, answer honestly the question about what the speech codes make acceptable or unacceptable on a campus, and they were emphasizing the importance of context, because context is really important. And when that kind of speech is linked to the actual intimidation, harassment, or attacks of people, or persistent efforts to screen these things at people, I think it's very clear that it's a punishable offense. But I think lots of other things are less clear, and they were trying to be as accurate as possible at the expense of, let's say, a kind of articulating a moral voice. The other thing I would say is, I think part of why they were very careful was because of the way the question was posed. And what's really being referenced in these claims about genocide of Jews or genocide of Israelis is the Palestinian slogan, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." And a lot of people, including Jewish people, Jewish scholars, really question whether that is intended as a call for genocide, as opposed to a call for Palestinian liberation or one state. There are lots of things that it means, but I think what it does not mean is let's kill all the Jews. And I think the college presidents were reluctant to start saying talk of genocide should be banned, because they were reluctant to say that that language should be banned, because that's political language on the campus.
So let's talk about Indiana Congressman Jim Banks wrote a letter to IU saying it was failing to address Semitism and anti-Semitism, and you and a number of faculty took issue to this.
Yes. Our main concern was academic freedom and also due process on campus. If there are incidents of anti-Semitism or Islamophobia or any bigotry, the campus has rules for adjudicating these. And for example, the students who claimed that there was anti-Semitism in the student government, that's a claim that's now being adjudicated, as it should be. And there are university rules for punishing certain crimes on campus, as there should be. But the idea that there needs to be a kind of inquisition of universities because of anti-Semitism, when in fact there has been a rise of both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, and a lot of that is really simply very heated political debate, which is not necessarily bigoted, is not necessarily linked to violence. My colleagues and I think it's really important that campuses be a place where there's a broad range of freedom for students to argue and to demonstrate, and as long as they don't harm others directly, they need to be able to do that without fear of punishment, and universities are quite capable of regulating that without an external policing agent.
So we have about 30 seconds.
Yes.
So really quickly, can one be critical of the Israeli government and yet without being labeled anti-Semitic?
Certainly, and there are many Israeli critics. There are Jewish peace groups. Yes, it's possible, and it's necessary to be critical without being anti-Semitic. It's necessary to be critical of Hamas without being, Islamophobic, and it's necessary for those people to learn how to negotiate with each other and come up with some kind of reasonable settlement over a land that they share.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Bloomington's ambitious fiber optic plan will bring rapid download speeds to thousands of homes, but homeowners affected by damage during installation can find themselves bogged down for months. Ethan Sandwise investigates why these accidents happen and what homeowners can do about it.
Hoosier Fiber Networks connected the home of Mike Sauer and his wife Vanya Castro to citywide broadband last January. Sauer said it only took a few weeks before the trouble started.
We started having some problems in our bathrooms. A lot of gurgling going on in the toilets when you flush them.
Sauer suspected the issue was related to recent fiber installation. When city utilities came out to investigate, they discovered contractors had drilled through his sewer line. The contractor responsible, Vertical Underground LLC, sent out a crew to repair the damage. Sauer said that fixed things for a time, but several months later, the problems resurfaced.
We had to call the plumbing people back and clear out our lines like the week before Thanksgiving when we were having guests come in from out of town. Our entire family was coming here and the toilets are all backing up.
Now Sauer is at a loss. He worries that if contractors won't cover repairs, he could get stuck footing the $12,000 bill. Fiber installation is the largest underground infrastructure project in Bloomington since cable television. It will dramatically improve internet speeds and connectivity citywide. But Dave Broden, CEO of Hoosier Fiber Networks, says Bloomington can be a challenging place for a project of this size.
An urban environment like Bloomington is very dense with underground infrastructure, and some of that infrastructure, including parts of the utilities, dog fences, irrigation systems, are frequently unmarked.
The city of Bloomington maintains over 420 miles of water main pipe, not including the service lines that lead into buildings. As Vic Kelson, director of City of Bloomington Utilities, told the Common Council earlier this month, breaks are usually caused when contractors misestimate the depth of pipes.
They know if I'm standing on top of it or not, but they can't be quite sure how deep it is because the land surface elevation does change with time.
According to James Hall, Assistant Director of Transmission and Distribution for the City of Bloomington Utilities, because soil composition is inconsistent, an inexperienced or unaware contractor could also end up drilling further underground than they realize. That was the case for a sewer force main contractor struck near Gentry Estates last month, causing waste to leak into a retention pond.
That sewer force main was at between 4 and 5 feet somewhere. Well, and they thought they were only going to be at 2 feet.
Broden says Hoosier Fiber Networks tries to cut back on this by getting rid of unreliable contractors.
Any subcontractor has multiple instances is typically removed from the project.
Dealing with pipe breaks can be frustrating for residents because it's not always clear who to contact. The city of Bloomington doesn't contract or pay the companies installing fiber, so it's not liable for accidents. Rather, it granted the French infrastructure company Meridiam the right-of-way to develop. Meridiam's local subsidiary, Hoosier Fiber Networks, oversees the entire project, but the actual installation is handled by a general contractor, AEG. AEG in turn works with subcontractors that dig, bore, and lay cable. In the words of City IT Director Rick Dietz, going to the city as a middleman is not usually the best route.
If you do notice there's an issue, talk to the, and the contractor is in your neighborhood, talk to them, immediately, because they will often, address the problem.
Hall says breaks can take weeks, months, or even years to become noticeable. The longer a resident waits to investigate drainage problems, the more difficult it can be to prove a contractor is responsible.
I think it's better for them to be more proactive than, trying to be reactive maybe 18 months after, when you're going to have trouble convincing someone that they did this 18 months ago.
Still, both the city and Hoosier Fiber Networks say it should never land on the consumer to pay for those mistakes. Broden says when his company's contractors damage infrastructure, they reimburse either the city or the property owner for repairs.
Anytime Hoosier Fiber Networks is at fault for any damage, it's totally the financial responsibility of ourselves. It's not on the homeowner. The homeowner's not going to have to pay for anything.
Still, the path forward isn't clear to Sauer. Hoosier Fiber Networks says the contractor responsible has been moved to another project in Columbus, Indiana, and Sauer is unsure whether he can prove that the continuing problems are connected to the initial break. Since the damage is underneath his property and not on the public sewer main, the city says they can't inspect the sewer laterally to diagnose the problem.
Just having to deal with the situation for this long has been frustrating.
Residents affected by construction should contact Hoosier Fiber Networks. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Sandweiss.
All right, we're joined now by Callie Lichter for the latest headlines from around the area.
Hi, Joe. The Monroe County School Corporation has proposed merging elementary schools to balance socioeconomic status between schools. At this week's board meeting, Superintendent Jeff Hoswald proposed combining Childs Elementary with Templeton Elementary and Fairview Elementary with University Elementary. The school districts will remain the same. In one scenario, Childs would house grades K through 2 and Templeton would have grades 3 through 6.
We talk about SES, we talk about socioeconomics and that status, and that is defined in terms of school by the percentage of students that are that qualify for free and reduced lunch.
Second scenario would place grades K through 3 at University Elementary and grades 4 through 6 at Fairview. The combined socioeconomic status range for all 14 elementary schools would decrease from 78% to approximately 53%. The school board will revisit the proposal and take public comment at its January 9th meeting. The Bloomington City Council voted unanimously Wednesday night to reject the sale of the downtown police station. The sale became an issue after family of the original owners of the property spoke out against it. They said because the original sale was for the land to be used as a public park, selling it for private use would breach the deed, and that ownership of the land should revert back to the family. Mayor John Hamilton says the city has investigated the matter.
A year ago plus, the question was, do we have the right to sell this property? Legal team investigated, said yes.
The vote complicates Mayor John Hamilton's plan to move the police department to City Hall and delays work on a fire station and fire training center, which were included in the project with the police station sale. Any future action will fall on incoming Mayor Carrie Thompson and the new City Council. They take office on January 1st, 2024. The Ellettsville Town Council says it will help Monroe County fund rural transit through March 2024. The council agreed to fund the service on a per-trip basis, but did not say whether it would get the nearly $33,000 it needs to keep rural transit going.
We're not saying we're cutting it off, but we're not making any commitments. I mean, we're going to reevaluate, right?
Monroe County recently approved $88,000 for rural transit, expecting Ellettsville would come up with the remaining $132,000 needed for another year of service. Ellis says the council will determine in March if it can fund rural transit any longer. Indiana's Attorney Disciplinary Commission says Attorney General Todd Rokita flouted the authority of the state Supreme Court with comments he made about the public reprimand he received earlier this year. Brandon Smith reports the commission is asking the court to take an extraordinary step and make public Rokita's confidential disciplinary agreement.
The Indiana Supreme Court approved an agreement in November between the Attorney Disciplinary Commission and Todd Rokita that said he committed misconduct. The discipline stemmed from comments made by the Attorney General about Dr. Caitlin Bernard after she publicly discussed providing abortion care to a 10-year-old Ohio rape victim. Shortly after the court's opinion, Rokita issued a statement denying any wrongdoing, arguing he only agreed to admit misconduct to save a lot of taxpayer money and distraction. The Disciplinary Commission says those comments call into question Rokita's sincerity and damage public perception of the attorney discipline system's integrity and justness. It says publicly releasing the agreement and the affidavit that goes with it, which Rokita signed, will help restore public faith that lawyers cannot manipulate the discipline system. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
The next step in the process allows Rokita to respond to the commission's request. If the request moves forward from there, the Supreme Court would hold a public hearing before making a decision. Indiana is improving in some key economic areas according to the latest report card released by the State Chamber of Commerce. But in many areas, that improvement is being outpaced by other states. The report cards are tied to the Chamber's Economic Vision Plan. It tracks metrics across a range of issues, everything from labor force participation and entrepreneurship to healthcare costs and educational attainment. Outgoing Chamber CEO Kevin Brinegar says Indiana ranks in the top 10 of only 7 of the report card's 49 national measures.
Progress isn't happening fast enough because other states are improving at a faster pace. So we need to pick up the pace.
And Joe, areas where the Chamber says Indiana lags are healthcare costs and early childhood education.
All right, thanks, Callie. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Bloomington's proposal to ban billboards in the city hits close to home for one Bloomington family. And we take a tour of Columbus's Nexus Park, where construction continues to turn an empty mall into a sports and wellness center. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
This is the PBS app. It's ready for you whenever you want full episodes of your favorites, perhaps a little history, or the real story, shows with heart, or the latest news and docs. Even stream your local station live. It's all there waiting for you. So download the PBS app now for everything you love and a whole lot more to explore. Stream anytime, anywhere with the PBS app.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Bloomington's Plan Commission postponed a vote to amend the city's zoning code and remove all billboards in the city. As Callie Lichter reports, for one Bloomington family, the threat of a billboard ban is personal.
Billboards. They show drivers where to get gas at the nearest highway exit or promote an upcoming IU football game. But for one Bloomington man, billboards are more than just advertisements.
The ability for us to be able to teach Jacob through this outdoor advertising is just beyond comprehension to probably to people that don't have or associate with a child on the autism spectrum.
Jacob Perry has always loved to travel. Being on the autism spectrum, the visual stimulation of roadside signs provides language engagement for him. His mom, Jennifer Myers, says what started as a love for mile markers expanded to green signs, welcome signs, and then into a wider world.
And then from there, it really just expanded into the world of billboards. In our area, we have a lot of Lamar, and places that we would travel often to had a lot of Lamar.
Lamar Outdoor Advertising owns the most billboards in town, and the company is Jacob's favorite. After Jacob's father reached out to the Bloomington office about putting up a special 11th birthday billboard for Jacob, the company happily gifted one to him.
They really appreciated meeting someone who loved Lamar even more than they did.
They put it in his favorite panel on his favorite Bloomington street, Walnut, because it has the most Lamar billboards all in a row.
It was the first time he actually got to see a Lamar installer put up this vinyl. And when they rolled it down, there was a gigantic picture of Jacob. It said happy 11th birthday. And it was like Christmas morning.
And that gift started the over 10-year friendship with Jacob and Lamar Outdoor Advertising. Jacob is at many Lamar billboard installations, receives copy work orders, and whenever the Bloomington office would get a shirt order for the installers, Jacob's name was always on the list. The relationship went from the Bloomington office to the state office and to the Lamar National office in Baton Rouge, where he was greeted by Lamar Advertising CEO Sean Riley.
It was all hands on deck that day for Jacob. Everyone knew that he was coming. Everyone had some sort of gift to give him that day. Really just took him under his wing and just gave him, just this, VIP treatment.
When the Bloomington office closed, Myers compared it to Jacob losing a family member.
It truly was a family member. Having that local office shut down was pretty traumatic for Jacob, in all honesty. And he went through a huge grieving process of not being able to, have that touch point in his life every week.
A loss that will grow. During a City Planning Commission meeting in September, Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton's administration proposed amending the city's zoning code and removing all billboards in Bloomington over the next 7 years.
It's devastating for us. For Jacob, it quite literally would be a death. He would resonate in that in a way. I mean, this is his absolute passion.
The vote by the Plan Commission was scheduled for this week, but they canceled the meeting, effectively pushing the issue to 2024. But billboards are still on the chopping block. For now, Myers says she is continuing to promote the positivity of billboards in Bloomington because of the impact on Jacob's identity.
This is what excites him. This is places that he identifies with in personal challenges, in ways that nothing else could fill that spot.
An identity that is shown in Jacob's at-home office. He doesn't even have to go outside to see the billboards. He has his own Lamar operation in his basement. He knows all the numbers, all the locations, and all of the process of putting up his homemade billboards. That doesn't mean he doesn't take some creative liberty while making his billboards.
That's so awesome. So what was the billboard that you just put up?
WTIU.
Oh, love it.
I see the logo at the bottom now.
Yeah.
Here. I see the WTIU with the circle.
I wouldn't want anyone else to put up our billboard.
And his favorite part?
Just like to install.
Installation, like he's seen so many of his friends at Lamar do. But even if Lamar's installations in Bloomington end, Jacob's installations and his love for Lamar won't.
It could have stopped there, right? It could have stopped at the billboard and not just gone on, but it continued in these fostered relationships that are genuine and in these real love for my child.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Callie Lichter.
If the City Council passes the ban next year, Bloomington's 47 billboards will have to come down by 2031. Well, outgoing Columbus Mayor Jim Linup says one of his proudest projects is the city's reuse of a vacant mall. Linup took us on a tour of Nexus Park, soon to be the city's one-stop shop sports and wellness center.
There are more mall walkers than shoppers at the former Fair Oaks Mall in Columbus, but soon residents will have more than empty storefronts to walk by. The $92 million transformation of the mall into a health, wellness, and recreation center is scheduled to be done by April.
This is will become the main entrance.
Mayor Jim Linup says they expect 1,000 visitors a day and up to 10,000 over the weekend.
When I was a young boy, I played baseball across the street at Lincoln Park, and my brother and I would come by this place and just comment about the fact that it would make a great addition to the park.
It's called Nexus Park, a collaboration between the city, its parks department, and Columbus Regional Health. Workers are busy finishing up the field house, bigger than 2.5 football fields, to host soccer and softball games.
2 collegiate-sized basketball courts, 2 high school-sized, or with a little bit different configuration on the lines, maybe 10 pickleball courts or volleyball courts.
Indiana University Columbus will also use the facility as its home court.
There will be things here for people to do in between their games.
Columbus Regional Health will move many of their clinical practices to a portion of the building.
If you live here and you've got some health care needs, they will be able to take care of it all here under one roof. So you won't have to drive around town.
Linnep says the clinic will be a welcome change to how healthcare is delivered.
The City of Columbus, along with Bartholomew Consolidated Schools, will have a clinic here. It'll be same day, next day service for our employees at no additional charge to them.
The city's Parks Department will also move here, featuring community rooms, a fitness center, a child watch center, teaching kitchens, and more. Linnep says funding comes from some loans, parks and city bonds, and the state's READY grant program.
We folded this project into our READY request, and that money we received has allowed us to accelerate the phases that would have taken, like I said, 5 to 7 years.
The final stage will feature exterior work such as green space, parking, and park projects.
Well, besides that story, we have our full sit-down last Ask the Mayor show with him on our website as well, so join us for that. That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.